and welcome to a Revs Plus on the Commodore 64. And this came out 1987 and is sort of a upgrade to the original Revs release, which came out on the 64 about I think it was early 86. And originally the game was written for the BBC Micro by Geoff Crammond, and he did these conversions later on. Revs Plus adds a couple of new features. There's more tracks for a start. The original game only had Silverstone and Brands Hatch, but obviously there's a few more tracks in this one. But you can only load 2 in when the game first loads. You pick 2 and then they just load in. And if you want to play any more, you have to reload the game. And there's also been some changes to the control methods. The original Revs, you could either play with the keyboard or with an analog joystick. Revs Plus lets you use a digital joystick with computer-assisted steering, and it turns out, if you played Formula 1 Grand Prix by Geoff Crammond, it pretty much turns it into that control system, which in my opinion makes the game a lot easier to play. I'm not a big fan of using the keyboard. It feels more like playing the piano than actually driving a car, but I suppose once you've mastered it, it does give you a little more control over the computer-assisted digital steering. But I guess the best way to play it is with an analog joystick, but I don't have one. I've never had one for the C64, and I'm not sure many people did. It was more of a BBC Micro sort of thing. Anyway, let's get started. So you can pick 2 tracks. I'll just pick Silverstone and Snetterton. Why not? Silverstone is pretty much the easiest track, so that's obviously why I'm going for that one. It's got quite lots of fairly flat out corners, and the course itself is fairly flat. There's not too much undulation, and there's certainly no blind corners. It's definitely the easiest. So let's go to Silverstone, and we shall pick competition, and we'll stick with novice because, well, I'm not that great, to be honest, and we'll go for a 10-minute qualifying session. You can end the session once you're bored anyway. Put my name in. Okay, so we're at the wing settings. You can't really configure too much in the car, just the rear and front wings. The manual recommends going for 40 and 32, and I'm certainly not really good enough to warrant actually changing these values, so I'll just stick with these. And here we are behind the wheel, and first of all what we need to do is press Control, well, it's Commodore key, but I'm using an emulator here, so it's Control and 5, so that would be Commodore key and 5. Just press that a few times to get the volume up, because it's really quiet. And then Commodore key and F5 to turn on the joystick settings, and then Commodore key and C to turn on the computer-controlled or computer-assisted steering. And you can see that little mark has appeared above 12 on the rev counter in the middle. Yeah, that shows that the computer-assisted steering's on. And that's it. All we have to do is press T to turn the engine over. That's the only difference between this and Formula 1 Grand Prix, is that you have to start the engine if it stalls. But other than that, the controls are the same. It's forward to accelerate, back to brake, left and right to steer, and it's forward and fire to change up a gear, and just fire on its own to change down. Might take a bit of getting used to if you haven't played Formula 1 Grand Prix, but if you have, then you will be all over it. And the frame rate is actually pretty good. It's a lot better than it has any right to be, but obviously Geoff Crammond's is the man when it comes to doing these sort of games. I mean, the frame rate is actually, okay, the graphics aren't as good obviously, but the frame rate is better than Formula 1 Grand Prix on a Amiga 500 for sure. But I've looked on YouTube, and the BBC version, and it's noticeably faster. But the BBC processor did run at twice the speed. It was clocked at twice the speed of the C64 one, even though it was the same processor, or more or less. But yeah, I think it's pretty good. I think the roads graphics are great. They're a bit sparse, but they've got a few signs and there's some good reference points to pick your braking point. Other cars are, yeah, they can be a little indistinct at a distance, but close up they look pretty good, I think. Yeah, the sound effects are really the biggest letdown. I'm doing terrible in this lap, by the way, just because I'm busy talking. Yeah, the sound effects are pretty basic. The engine sound is not very good. The skid sound is actually not too bad, and it does give a good indication if you're losing traction on the roads. Right, so let's 150. That was absolute rubbish. Let's concentrate a bit more for this one. There are no driving aids like there are in Formula 1 Grand Prix, so the learning curve is quite a bit steeper. But this is as close to a racing simulation as you're going to get on the Commodore 64. I mean, there are some other games like Grand Prix Circuit. It's more of a sort of hybrid arcades / simulator. But this is more of a simulator. Well, I know I'm doing better on this lap because I'm catching some cars. You've got to watch you don't make contact with them, especially during the race. Because if you make contact with the other cars, you can restart, but they crash out and they just sit in the middle of the track for the rest of the race. There's no marshals coming to take them away. So I guess it's a bit of a deterrent not to just blindly drive into them. But sometimes they do sort of drive into you. I'm a bit rubbish at this chicane, which obviously isn't at Silverstone anymore. 133.9, that's better. Yeah, so this isn't a Formula 1 car. Went off, can I save it? No. It's best to get into neutral pretty quickly. Start the engine. Yeah, this isn't a Formula 1 car, it's based on Formula 3. I can't remember the exact car. It's in the manual, but I can't remember exactly what it is. So also you're not going to get Formula 1 lap times, even by 1986, 1987 standards. It's going to be a bit slower. And I don't think it looks too slow to watch. It certainly feels pretty fast when you're playing it. But there's no point doing another qualifying lap. What I'll do is I'll press the Commodore key and 7, and that will basically accelerate time and work out the times for the other drivers. And we'll go into the race. Yeah, so this is a game that's I never had back in the day. I remember seeing it, but I never had it. And when I got back into the C64 via emulation at the time, because my original C64 had broken. When I got back into C64 stuff, I kind of gave Revs a go, but I couldn't get into the control method. It's only recently I've done enough research to play Revs Plus and figure out how to turn on the computer-assisted steering for the digital joystick. And that's really made the game much more enjoyable for me anyway. But then I was a big fan of Crammond's Formula 1 Grand Prix on the Amiga, so I'm used to that control system. But so let's start race. Now at this point you can enter another driver, and what you can do is it's not hot seat like it is in Formula 1 Grand Prix. It's you just take turns doing the whole race, and then I think there's some aggregate race times are compiled. But yeah, so but obviously it's just me, so we'll start race, novice, and there's a list of race times here. There's some fairly amusing other driver names. Yes, Glorious Slap was particularly humorous, or Willie Swerve. Yes. Right, so we'll just go 5 laps. So the menu system's fairly basic, but I mean it does the job. Right, so let's start the engine. We'll go some revs up. Then if you hold fire down, he says, I must just completely screw that up. Yeah, if you hold fire down, it basically holds the clutch in, which was what I should have did, but it doesn't matter. So it's not a bad start here. You see the frame rate drops a little bit when there's a lot of cars on screen, and there are quite a lot of cars on screen, but it's still pretty fast. This is the tricky bit going around this first corner. Yeah, a lot of these corners in Silverstone you can take flat out. Not really in a good position here. Oh, no, managed to get round him. And I like the mirrors, they're pretty well done, I think. You don't see a lot of detail in them, it's more of a sort of shape that you can see moving, but it gives you an idea that somebody's behind you. Sometimes it pays off not to be too aggressive. No, don't drive like Lewis Hamilton. But patience can't help. Also, I'm in completely the wrong position there. Oh, managed to spin off. Oh, managed to save it. Yeah, so you can sometimes get yourself out of a spin. Definitely going down here. And according to the manual, the optimal revs for changing gear are between 5 and 6,000. You can see there's no speedometer. It's all, revs are the most important thing. Oops, some swine hit me from behind. Alright, let's change here, and it's just resection the track. There's no damage or anything like that. Yep, so yeah, that's Revs for you, just a quick whiz through. I think it's a great game. Well, it's Revs Plus. Revs I'm not too keen on just because the control method is a bit too hard for me. But Revs Plus, check out as long as you turn on the, or you can try playing with the keyboard if you want, but I would recommend trying the digital joystick with the computer assisted steering. All it does is make sure you don't turn too much into the corners, and it just sort of guides you a little bit. But you're still in control of the car. You know, you still control when to turn in. But it just stops you from spinning. You can spin quite easily. You can turn the steering wheel too much if you're playing with keys, and you don't have the. Well, I think you can in this. I think you can turn the computer-assisted steering on as well, but the controls are a bit more flexible with the keyboard. You can turn the steering wheel a bit faster. You can. So it's yeah, I would definitely recommend just sticking with the digital joystick option. Get out of the way. Yeah, so there's not a actual well, there's a championship, but all you do is finish the race and you just keep playing the same circuit until you've had enough. You can rack up points, but there's no actual real season as such, which is a bit of a shame, but I guess there's no other way to do it. It would have been quite a hefty multi-load if I had to keep loading different tracks in. Yeah, if there had been a full season, like Formula 1 Grand Prix on the Amiga, if it had been something like that, then I think this definitely would have been a 10 out of 10 game for me. As it is, I'll give it 9.5 out of 10. I think it's really great. It's easily ahead of its time when it came out. And nothing really, apart from Grand Prix Circuit sort of, but there's not been a lot of games really like it on the 64. In terms of simulation, this is the one to play. So yeah, 9.5 out of 10 for Revs Plus, and this is the fourth Geoff Crammond game I have reviewed, and is in fact the lowest scoring at 9.5 out of 10. So that gives you an idea, really. I think it says a lot about Geoff Crammond and the quality of the games that he put out. Yep, so 9.5 out of 10 for Revs Plus, and see you in the next video.